This is a BC Eagle Finance video. Brigham and Houston, Chapter 2, Stock Markets and Stock Market Returns. In this section, we will distinguish between an auction market, which represents a physical place where trading occurs, and a dealer market, which is a sophisticated type of computer network that links individual brokers' Quotron computers across the globe. Essentially, the New York Stock Exchange represents an auction market where there is a physical trading place, as you can see in the picture to your right, and these circular stations represent the stations of specialists that control the buying and selling of shares. Now, you and I don't trade on the New York Stock Exchange. That's handled by computers, but big institutional investors that trade 10,000 shares in a single block will make use of this physical auction space. The NASDAQ, on the other hand, is a computer network, and if you go to your broker's office, you'll see a computer sitting on his or her desk that is connected to the NASDAQ exchange, the National Association of Security Dealers Automated Quotes. And in this particular setup, you have, instead of an auction floor, just a series of computers, and here are a bunch of screens that show the activity for a subset of the trading that goes on. And as a matter of fact, if you want a picture of the trading floor of the NASDAQ, here it is. It's nothing but a large room with a bunch of closets filled with file servers that control the action on the NASDAQ exchange. As time goes on and the computers get more and more sophisticated, the differences between a trading place like the New York Stock Exchange and a computer network like the NASDAQ exchange are narrowing. As I mentioned, the individual trades that you and I would make, even on the New York Stock Exchange, would be handled through computers, and only the large institutional investors would make use of the trading floors. Now, let's take a look at the typical size of a trading day on the the NASDAQ exchange. This is a log of recent activity from the NASDAQtrader.com. This happens to be from May 29th, 2018. And as you can see, on this day, the volume of shares traded represented over 2 billion shares, and of those 2 billion shares, 388 million shares were traded in blocks of 10,000 shares or more. The dollar volume was over $108 billion. Now, this kind of volume, if you take the 2 billion shares, represents about 24,000 shares traded per second, with a value of about $1.25 million a second. There is no way that a physical location can handle that type of volume. It must be done through the speed of computers. Here's a picture of where the different stock exchanges exist across the world. Of course, you have the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ exchange in the trading center in Wall Street in New York. But across the globe, there is a Toronto exchange. In Canada, the Sao Paulo exchange in Brazil, South America, a Madrid Stock Exchange in Spain, London Stock Exchange, Euronext, which is similar to the NASDAQ in the United States. It's located in different cities across Europe, Frankfurt Stock Exchange in Germany, Shanghai Stock Exchange, Tokyo Stock Exchange, Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and 2 in India, the Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange of India. Switzerland has its own stock exchange, as does Johannesburg Stock Exchange in South Africa. And down under, there is the Australian Securities Exchange. As far as size, you can see in the red bars, these are the trading volume of the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ exchange, and together they comprise about $27 trillion worth of value each year. That is a lot. Other stock exchanges, in the order of their volume and dollar amounts, you can see that the United States Exchange represents truly the largest stock exchange on earth. Now it's your turn to check your understanding of stock exchanges. You should be able to distinguish between physical stock exchanges that have an open auction, like the New York Stock Exchange, and a computer network like the NASDAQ exchange. Additionally, you should be able to distinguish between the bid-ask spread of stock pricing. This happens on the computer exchanges like the NASDAQ exchanges. You might need to do a little bit of reading in your text or an internet search to respond to this particular question. We've reached the end of this section. Thank you for listening.